and welcome. Good to see all of us here this morning. I'm sure the number will grow as we go. My name is Karen Carpenter, and I have been co-opted by my dear friend and colleague Simeon because of my love of philosophy and my willingness every year to come and do other lectures in philosophy. So I'm very happy to be here to introduce all of the discussants and your participants today, and thank you for the opportunity. It's great to be a friend of philosophy. Yes? We're going to start this morning by having the head of department in philosophy, Dr. Vivette Wilson-White, bring the welcome. Dr. White. Chair Dr. Karen Carpenter. Professor Sylvia Hohenberg, Dean of the Faculty of Humanities and Education, other officers of the university, or panelists who have started to arrive, colleagues from the philosophy section, the wider Department of Language, Linguistics and Philosophy and the university, students, participants who have joined virtually. I take this opportunity to welcome you to this, the 2022 UNESCO World Philosophy Day event. You would have noticed I'm stalling a little bit as I'm trying to identify as part of our specially invited guest list. So at this point, what I will do is indicate to you, those who are expecting. So we are expecting, and we'd like you to welcome when they do arrive, a representative from the Ministry of Culture, Entertainment and Sport, Mr. Everton Hannan, Secretary General of the Commission for UNESCO, Dr. Mariah Smith, Program Coordinator of the Jamaica National Commission for UNESCO, Ms. Paula Isturiz Cavero, Program Specialist, Social and Human Science at the UNESCO Office for the Caribbean, Chair of the Jamaica National Bioethics Committee, and we'll have our guest performer and others who will join us. So when all of these do join us, we hope that they will feel welcome, as I'm hoping that you who are here already are already feeling the spirit of UNESCO World Philosophy Day 2022. Now, ladies and gentlemen, my department, the Department of Language and Philosophy, here at the University of the West Indies, Mona campus, in partnership with the Jamaica National Commission for UNESCO, takes pride in hosting this signature event every year to highlight the value of philosophy, not only within the academy, within hallowed spaces of a university, but also in society at large. We did not meet in 2020. I am particularly pleased that I can welcome you to this space, the Undercroft. For as you may know, the last time we met like this was in 2019, when we considered the theme, social transformation through youth engagement. Last year, 2021, we met virtually to contemplate the human condition in times of crisis, mitigating the challenges of life during a pandemic. As we gather in person this year, and we'll be streaming online, for UNESCO World Philosophy Day 2022, our theme is the question of human responsibility and the environment. Ladies and gentlemen, this year's theme brings focus to our awareness of concerns regarding nature and our environment. Concerns important to philosophy, but also to all other disciplines of study, indeed, to every one of us. This theme transcends our individual cultures, suggesting that we all need to practice an environmentally friendly lifestyle in our various species. This year's theme, ladies and gentlemen, hails words attributed to Jamaica's first national hero and Caribbean philosopher, Marcus Garvey. God and nature first made us what we are, and out of our creative genius, we make ourselves what we want to be. Follow always that great law. Let God and the sky be our limit, and eternity our measurement. There is no height to which you cannot climb with the intelligence of your mind. Mind creates, and as much as we desire in nature, we can have through the creation of our minds. These century resonate with us today, and our panel from the Academy and wider society will bring together the environment, the mind, minds, us, as they stimulate us to deeper reflection about our conscious and less conscious actions in and on nature. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you heartily to this UNESCO World Philosophy Day 2022. May our discussions be engaging, our reflections meaningful, and our interventions in and on the environment be naturally fruitful. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson White, and indeed, very heartwarming words. It's already begun to tickle our brains, yes? That's what I like about philosophy. It keeps your brain excited. We want to welcome at this point to the podium Professor Sylvia Cohenberg, Dean, Faculty of Humanities and Education, to bring the greetings.
Good morning, all. I want to quote from the UWI's website on our contribution to the study of climate change and use that to reflect a little on how it is that we, from the perspective of humanities and philosophy, may be included in that. So let me first remind us all that our mission, the UWI's mission, is to advance learning, create knowledge, and foster innovation for the positive transformation of the Caribbean and the wider world. And that as the region's premier research academy, the UWI's foremost objective is driving the sustainable growth and development of the Caribbean region. And sustainability, I would say, is possible only with the inclusion of all stakeholders. Sustainable development has to be not just about the people and for the people, but by the people. So how does UWI contribute to this goal? How do we drive sustainable growth and development in the Caribbean as an academy? So in order to champion that sustainable future, UWI leverages the expertise across the member universities to share, across the member campuses, to share knowledge that improves Caribbean lives and livelihoods and fights climate poverty. UWI delivers research that aids policy making and offers new insight. UWI teaches generations of scholars and industry professionals, equipping them with the expertise to create new solutions. The UWI creates new products and solutions to assist communities. It partners with the private sector to drive innovative changes and create climate solutions that balance people, planet, and prosperity. And finally, UWI strengthens the alignment between higher education, development agencies, the public and private sectors, and civil society. So there is a lot here about Caribbean lives, about Caribbean communities, but what I see kind of missing is the presence of these communities themselves, of the Caribbean people themselves. So UWI is engaged in finding solutions But can we, as a university, actually work with people so that they can find their own solutions? And to me, this is where we, the humanities, we philosophers, come into the picture. There is a lot about, climate change and sustainable development that makes us think about technology, about innovation. But the scientists cannot work in a vacuum. According to the information that was sent me about today's theme, this theme, the question of nature, human responsibility in the environment, is aimed at creating awareness about our natural environment and our responsibility as human beings. Now, how do we arrive at the situation where Caribbean peoples and Caribbean communities see this responsibility as something that is part of their own daily experiences, that climate is not just something that happens to them, but it is something that they engage with. That sustainable lives, sustainable living is not just something that happens to them, but it is something that they can engage with. The reference is made here to cultural beliefs, norms, and values. What cultural beliefs, norms, and values drive us to live our lives in ways that are unsustainable without critical reflection? So to me, the importance of this day is that we give ourselves an opportunity not just to reflect on these issues, but to think about a program of action that will drive us to engage with people, with communities, so that thinking about sustainability and thinking about the engagement with resilience to climate change, thinking about adaptation, is something that is driven by the people themselves. So, as Dean of the Faculty of Humanities in Education, I hope that we can engage with this program of action. We are, after all, an activist university. A university that wants to contribute to the development, not just sustainable development of the region, but to the inclusive development of the region. And inclusive development must include everybody and not leave anybody behind. So I welcome you to World UNESCO and UWI Philosophy Day 2022. Enjoy the day.
Thank you, Mr. Coimber. Indeed, philosophy requires that we have critical reflection on the issues that face us, but also the time that we're in also demands inclusiveness. Stakeholders, including those who are impacted. Very much true of the university as an activist university. Thank you. I want to invite Dr. Rotimi Omosu to join me at the podium to bring his remarks from the philosophy section. He's a coordinator of that section in the Department of Language, Linguistics, and Philosophy.
Good morning, everyone. Let me rest on existing protocols. HOD, my dean, have made my job very simple for me this morning. I want to tell you that it is in philosophy I have found my fulfillment in life. I also want you to know that UWI, I'm talking about the University of the West Indies, has also found its fulfillment in philosophy. Why is this so? It is because philosophy is the only ancient discipline in the history of intellectual trajectory. If you go to any faculty, whatever they are doing there, they are trying to understand reality. And in doing so, they also want to know the truth. It is in philosophy, metaphysics to be specific, that we probe ultimate reality. Reality isn't just about something physical, material, or immaterial. Truth. Is truth eternal, or we have many truths? Philosophy makes you to understand yourself better, it makes you to understand your society better, and it also makes you to know how to harness the knowledge of your society, the knowledge of yourself for world development. So if UNESCO is collaborating with UWI in order to celebrate World Philosophy Day, you should know that UNESCO, United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization believes so much in knowledge development. So while we are gathering here, we want to generate knowledge. And I can assure you, before you leave this, never remain the same, because philosophy will make you to understand yourself, and it will also make you to participate positively in the development of your environment, in the development of university, and in make the world to be a better place for you to live. So my worry has always been the fact that philosophy is not being properly prioritized in the society. What I would want to refer to as the inverse, or the paradox of inverse significance. Philosophy is light. It illuminates the mind. But this discipline, this academic discipline is not being recognized in the way it ought to. And that is the reason UNESCO is promoting philosophy in its own way, so that all of us, we can know the value of philosophy, we can understand the value of knowledge, and be a better person in the world today. Leadership and philosophy are inseparable. How do you want to be a good leader if you are not a philosopher? I'm not saying that you must come to the discipline of philosophy to study philosophy as an academic discipline, but you must interact with philosophy. The more you distance yourself from philosophy, you also distance yourself from reality. Therefore, as I said earlier, this gathering is to make you to go back and have a sober reflection, if possible, about the significance, the importance, and the value of philosophy, not only to yourself, and also to your environment. You will still have me after this meeting, because this is not my last outing. I will still come back as a panelist to share my view with you on the environment. Thank you very much for listening to me.
I think we're getting better and better as we go along. Thank you very much, Dr. Omosulu. I am a lover of reality, and therefore I must love philosophy. And I endorse that wholeheartedly. If we could have 150%, I'll give you 150%. Yes. We want to acknowledge at this time Dr. Kerry Wallace, who's with us. She's the Executive Director of Tourism, of the Tourism Enhancement. And I'm now being told it's a he, Dr. Kerry. My apologies, you give me both. So Dr. Kerry Wallace, he is the Executive Director of Tourism Enhancement. So welcome. Next, I'd like to turn our attention to Mr. Everton, Secretary General of Jamaica National Commission for UNESCO, who's going to bring some remarks from UNESCO. So, Mr. Everton.
I'll accept it. Morning, Dr. Carpenter. Of course, you know, Dr. Carpenter was herself part of the early stages when we established National Bioethics Committee of Jamaica.
That's right.
Own right as I've been contributed, part of the contribution of the University of the West Indies to the whole program and stuff. All of us who are present here this morning on this World Philosophy Day, you know, representatives mentioned here, following on the heels of Professor Dr. Omosulu, very passionate about philosophy. I can recall, maybe my passion would not. I studied in another jurisdiction where I was remarking to professor from India. We did philosophy, and the philosophy we dealt with was very profound in some instances. You did it because they wanted then a good grade to continue to the next year. Dialectics, materialism, and historical materialism, Hegel, I remember those persons, and that was a long time ago before I had these knowledge posted up here. And so I remember that whole question of metaphysics. And it was so abstract then that being a first year student, and I can say it in the University of Havana, you just couldn't connect. So you just did it to just get a passing grade and move on. Then you did, yeah, whole cycle of philosophy you did. After you did political economy, I almost said in Spanish. You did political economy. And then you had another phase that you did was scientific coordinating. Do all of them. And you had to get your grades to pass to the next year. But that was my first encounter with philosophy. And as the visiting professor said, there have been now some more advances and some modernization, so to speak, of question of philosophy. The question is, so I would like to now reconnect to see how you would look at philosophy as was posted then and philosophy now to see how the similarities and to what extent it has been modified. Let me recognize here for the presence, of course, Dr. Kira Wallace from the Tourism Ministry and particularly here, right? And also other representatives present here this morning, representatives from the National Commission for UNESCO, Professor Sylvia Cohenberg, who is the Dean of the Faculty of Humanities and Education, who remarked that it is just an annual activity that sees me coming to this campus. I really don't have any biological connection to this campus. I did study here, my daughter did study here, so I consider myself a guest, an guest when I come through those gates here. So I'm pleased to be on this campus again, and welcome is always tremendous. It's important that we realize that the relationship that has been established between UNESCO and the University of the West Indies is not just concentrated in this particular area. The University of the West Indies has been contributing to the various aspects of UNESCO in many, many years. We have had persons who continuously serve on committees of UNESCO from the very beginning. John, Professor there, Dr. I remember Sam, who has been part of the Bioethics Committee for UNESCO. We have Professor Young, who is the chair of the Science Committee, Professor now awardee Mona Weber. Big up Optima. That's hard. So we have persons, we have persons who have served and making and continue to make. World philosophy is just another area in which the contribution is being made. I want to commend the team, and I want to again reach out to the University of the West Indies. Let us know it's tangible, that it can be an activity, as Professor said, to see how we can reconnect and regain and lift the importance and recognition that philosophy deserves in this space. UNESCO is concerned, and UNESCO is concerned. I want to also recognize the persons who have contributed and will be working on the panel and making their contribution in different ways. Of course, Professor Dr. Masulu, Yushim, Dr. Plummer, and of course Mr. Oliphant, who is making their contribution in the panel discussion. I won't spend much time up here further because I'm supposed to come giving the remark for Ms. Green. And let me end by in the university for collaborating with UNESCO and also the Caribbean cluster. I don't know, this is just Paula. And Paula. All of you. And we look forward that this collaboration can be strengthened and increased. Dr. Brady is there, our chairperson of the National Commission Committee for the Bioethics, and of course she will speak to the National Bioethics Committee and their contribution that has been made, so we can continue to make during this. Again, thank you very much. The collaboration is great, it is intense. make this effort and to build philosophy. Every time I come here, I'm motivated. Of course, Prof. Simon, I'm going to of course in philosophy, but maybe by the time I drive to the gate. But anyway, blessings.
Thank you, Mr. Hanam. Always a pleasure to see you and to hear from you. And I really am encouraged by what I hear from each of the speakers. About 2 years ago, I was invited to a program down positive creative activities, and they said, what would you like to see downtown? And I said, I'd like to see us teach philosophy in the inner city. Fell on deaf ears, so I'm going to say it again today. I'd like to see us teach philosophy in the inner city. Lots of philosophers there, but sometimes they're thinking, you know, the syllogisms don't work. So I want now to welcome to the podium Paula, as I said, just Paula. Paula is Teresa Cabrera, and she will bring us a declaration of the day. She is with the UNESCO Caribbean Cluster offices. Bienvenidos, Paula.
Protocols observed. Good morning. It is a pleasure to be here at the University of the West Indies, a leading knowledge institution in the Caribbean, to celebrate World Philosophy Day. Each year, on the third Thursday of November, UNESCO highlights the significant value of philosophy for the development of human thought across the globe. Philosophy is a discipline that encourages us to It is a practice that can transform societies. By enabling us to discover the diversity, intellectual currents in the world, philosophy stimulates intercultural dialogue, mutual understanding, and is a mechanism to foster. By harnessing the exercise of critical thinking and encouraging the expression of opinions, philosophy helps to build a more respectful and inclusive society. As a result, it also plays an important role in helping us to understand and to respond to major contemporary challenges by creating the intellectual conditions for change and innovation, which is especially pertinent in a world of misinformation and disinformation. Philosophy, therefore, is important to help us define the ethical principles that should guide humanity. For many years ago, UNESCO did this with the Universal Declaration of the Human General and Human Rights, and last year with the recommendation on the ethics of artificial intelligence, which was adopted by our member states in the last General Conference. In this year's message on the occasion of World Philosophy Day, UNESCO Director General Audrey Soleil called upon all of our societies to take a moment to step back and think collectively and to conceive a better world. It is therefore very fitting that the theme of today is the question of nature, human responsibility, and the environment. Climate Summit COP27, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres in our century. Greenhouse gas emissions keep growing, global temperatures keep rising, and our planet is fast approaching tipping points that will make climate chaos irreversible. So, how can human action also be the solution to the crisis human created? Philosophical thought, therefore, also has a contribution to make. By offering a multidisciplinary and multicultural perspective, philosophy brings knowledge to discuss and analyze these ethical dilemmas and pushes us towards a better understanding of ourselves in relation to our environment. Scholars and philosophers from Caribbean small island development states is also very timely and relevant. I would like to congratulate the Jamaica National Commission for UNESCO, the Philosophy Department at the University of the West Indies, and the National Bioethics Committee of Jamaica for organizing this event, which contributes to exercise of engaging in recent debate and informed thinking on the major challenges of our time. We look forward to an enriching and fruitful conversation. Thank you very much.
On the issue that we're dealing with today, which is climate change. And as you can see from the banner, the UNESCO banner, it tells us that they have a proud history worthy of celebration. And that certainly is part of what we're doing here today, and focusing on the climate issues. I'm going to invite Dr. Doreen Brady-West, Chair of the National Bioethics Committee of Jamaica, to bring us a philosophical reflection.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. I wish to, first of all, give my gratitude for being invited to this event. Pleasure having met all the persons I've met so far, and look forward to future meetings and collaborations with them. So I'd like to recognize the representatives from UNESCO, the International Commission for UNESCO, the Dean of the Faculty of Humanities and Education, the Head of the Department of and the Coordinator of Philosophy Section, who I had the pleasure of meeting and speaking to, Dr. Omushudu. I also want to thank Mr. Maja Connell, who was the person who reached out to me and reminded on the eager participation of the National Committee for Bioethics in this event. Philosophy Day, as you heard, is celebrated since 2002 on the third Thursday of November each year. And this day recognizes the enduring value of philosophy for the development of human thought, for each culture and also for each individual. And the theme this year is the question of nature, human responsibility and the environment. In the few minutes I have here, I want to share some brief reflections on philosophy in society, the concept of culture, and the mandate of man, i.e. human beings. First of all, it is described as science in the terms of physical sciences, which is the way we normally use the word science, not otherwise specified. Science, that is to say, being as it is, the study of the natural world is quite incapable of providing the answers to the deep life. These are questions that relate to meaning, to purpose, to morality, and physical sciences cannot give us cogent and coherent answers to these questions. It is philosophy that does that. At the same time, when philosophy does this, that philosophy, whatever it is, must be open to discussion and question and defense if it is worth its name, called philosophy. So these matters of meaning and purpose and morality, responsibility, fall soundly in the realm of philosophy. And the domain of morality and moral philosophy encapsulates what I would call ethics. It is somewhat humbling for scientists, but as a scientist myself, I am the first to willingly agree that the assertion I have heard, the assertion that only what is proved by science is true, is at the same time neither scientific nor true. Philosophy, including human responsibility, we could quote Socrates in Plato's Republic in saying, we are discussing no small matter, but how we ought to live. And the word ought is critical there, because once you hear the word ought, you are speaking ethically. Not only must we recognize the proper place of philosophy in society, but especially in this time and this context, philosophical thought must be granted its full exercise by ensuring that all ideas can be challenged and questioned and examined. For philosophy to exercise its enduring value, free of necessity. So what can I say about the concept of culture? Well, culture has been defined as the durable effect of human habitation or the output of human society and the product of deliberate human activity. And this definition certainly finds congruence with our theme this year. So also does the definition by Henry Van Til, who said that culture is a secondary environment which has been superimposed upon nature by man's creative effort. Culture may also be viewed as a concrete expression of a society's philosophical and religious commitments. Finally, in a less tangible and less concrete way, but also an interesting way, the sociologist Daniel Bell said that culture is an effort to to provide a coherent set of answers that confront all human beings. I find a lot of commonality with that definition. So it is an attempt to find coherent answers to the existential situations that face all of us, societies and individuals, in the passage of our lives. And this definition links culture to philosophy, as I said before. These existential questions include, but are not restricted to, what does it mean to be human? What is the good, the beautiful, and the true? And how shall I know it? These are important philosophical issues that impact on culture and the effect we have on society. From the etymological perspective, culture is linked to cultivate, from the Latin for plowing or tilling the ground, as well as the word related to veneration or adoration, like cult or cultic. A consideration of the implications of these associations is also relevant for our theme for this World Philosophy Day. And this brings me to the final point, which is the mandate of man. I am using the word man simply for alliterative purposes, and I mean human beings. Imago Dei is instructive not only for human dignity and human worth, but also for the realm of human authority in the world, and also, importantly, the weight of human responsibility. Man is given a sacred mandate in a supervisory capacity to fill the earth, to till the earth, and to guard and protect the earth. Most persons would concur that while as human beings we've done quite well at the first two, we fall short at the third. Cultural mandate then is to order, to develop, and embellish the creation in which we find ourselves. And man is intended to be a steward, not an autonomous and non-accountable ruler or tyrant. Responsible stewardship then involves a balance between working and protecting and guarding, so that we avoid the pitfalls and the extremes of overdevelopment or cultural apathy on the other hand. In order to exercise the stewardship, there is a need for community, because the transformative work of culture demands a wide and multifaceted array of ideas and skills and talents. My final point is that there is no place for hubris or human arrogance in the consideration of man as the guard or keeper of the earth. And I say this for three reasons. One, we have a mandate to guard and care for the environment. And it shouldn't be thought that this is done merely for our benefit, but on the contrary, it is to be done for the benefit of the environment itself. I was recently struck in reading that there was a study done in nature parks in Israel, looking at the rubbish that was left behind, persons who visited these parks, and the decay time for these discarded items, and to realize that in many cases, the items discarded by human beings in these areas outlive the human beings themselves by years and decades and centuries and even millennia. Junction to be the voice of the voiceless must certainly extend. So ecological action, protection of species, and environmental advocacy fall and within this responsibility. Thirdly, we recognize that while we care for the environment, in reality, the environment, clothing and shelter and oxygen and so much more. So I am very happy that the Bioethics Committee could have participated in this day. I congratulate anyone who participates future in this environment, environment of discussion and deliberation. And I want, on behalf of the NBCJ, I want to congratulate you and wish you a rewarding and successful World Philosophy Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Brady West. We can see that the National Bioethics Committee is indeed well chaired. Thank you for that broad and rounded scope of thoughts on the environment and man's and human on gender, I've got to say you, it irks. And the role thanks very much. I'm going to ask Mr. Hanam to return to the podium to bring us the address, the main address, on behalf of the Honorable Olivia Babsett Grange, Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport. Mr. Hanam.
Thank you, Chair. This time I won't resort to any off-the-cuff comment, but I'll read from a prepared statement that's been forwarded to me for review. I have already recognized the esteemed presence of all of us here. I also want to recognize our cultural representative who is going to later on do his cultural things. I want to recognize those persons who are going to bring our cultural presentation. I read thus. Allow me at the outset to thank the University of the West Indies, Department of Language, Linguistics and Philosophy, and UNESCO for the invitation to participate in another World Philosophy Day. This year is particularly compelling as it focuses on our relationship with the environment, an area of great concern for the Caribbean and the world. Indeed, among the things the pandemic has taught us is that national solutions to global problems do not work. In fact, when it comes to the environment, the failure of any section to take care of the environment is likely to impact others in a significant way. In our room, we see both some with the broom. The little dog allowed to see such fun and dish run away with his spoon. When God first appeared in the genesis of creation, he signaled immediately his connectivity to the enlarged environment of heaven and earth. From that principle stands from the very beginning. The philosophical underpinning of the relationship between human beings and the environment established. In fact, it became so that when God was later joined by man and woman within the backdrop of the humanity became defined through its connection to our responsibility for the environment in such a manner that to remove cause for concern. Indeed then, man has been challenged to play a significant role and responsibility for the status and state of the environment. From then to now, the sustaining of the environment has been the mainstay of human responsibility, and by extension, the destruction of the environment has largely been the result of human irresponsibility. The environment has been the main source of human provision, whether through its sea and landscape or the natural biosphere that sustains fruitful and harmonious coexistence. Throughout this story, or the history of human existence, the environment has been considered to be replete with minerals as part of an environment which replenishes itself by various natural orders. Later, competition for food and the establishment of man-made or built environment in cities and towns have wreaked havoc on the natural replenishing streams of human provision. As new philosophies of capitalism, individualism, and nationalism spread, with complementary notions of selfishness and myopia, poverty pervades, and smaller, poorer nations are relegated to the footnotes of history as big countries through industrial revolution and new financial orders deplete the environment. Small nations become collateral damage for the greed of others, even though these small nations contribute substantially less to the depletion of or destruction of the environment. The theme for today comes into play, the question of nature, human responsibility, and the environment. As we contemplate the realities we face in our global climate change, climate and environmental disaster, climate justice. The challenge is to return to the philosophies we live by, in which it was understood that what affects one may very likely affect all, or that no one should be left behind, or that no one is free until all are free. This is among the philosophies of human responsibility that we live by and which cause us to rise triumphant out of the horrors of slavery and colonialism. Human responsibility seeks endless concern of everyone for the security and sustainable development of all. The notion of human responsibility must be promoted within education and learning and in all areas of social organization. The notion of high-order constructs of altruism, human solidarity, and care for others. And that we are indeed our brothers, sisters, keepers, that without our engaging for the good of each other, our lives. This will have implications for peace, stability, and security within our countries. After all, the question is, can there be peace and prosperity if 1/3 of the world literally prospers and the other 2/3 live under siege and just threats to our well-being? Can there be peace and prosperity if a small minority that controls the economy acts without regard for the large masses of our people who may be left? In all this, we want to encourage the University of the West Indies to carry out its response to global erudition and scholarship to promote more integrated environmental studies as part of the effort to pursue new models of environmental justice. Where our region must annually respond to hurricanes, it must be seen as responsibility on the part of the university students to promote new forms of awareness and responses. After all, it cannot be fair or equitable that the livelihoods of our people should depend on staying lucky. Even if we avoid extreme weather events, our ports, hospitals, hotels, restaurants, and our coastal infrastructure may be threatened by rising sea levels. Young people in particular, those who are enlisted in this institution, must participate in the search for solutions to our country's challenges. As Caribbean governments, we must be reminded of the Caribbean philosophy that education is the medium by which our people are prepared for the creation of their own particular civilization and the advancement and glory of their own race. It is by education that we become prepared for duties and responsibilities in life. In this regard, we must be able to expect from graduates of the university innovation, invention, social affairs, and new economic models that will propel our people to greater levels of prosperity and peace. The ultimate aim of education must be social transformation, which can only be achieved through deliberate youth engagement. And so, as I quoted earlier from the song Wild Gilbert by Love in the Air, I'm reminded of the capacity for us in Jamaica to make light of serious climate events. It is likely a part of our coping mechanism. However, today I want us all to consider the need for everyone to see ourselves as stakeholders to sustainable prosperity. Encourage, engage all our people in a dialogue that must center on our collective responsibility to defend and sustain the environment for future generations, because our people will only respond if they see themselves as having a stake in the matter. This is ultimately human responsibility. In the words of Marcus Garvey, there is nothing more dangerous than to build a society with a large segment of people in the society who feel that they have no stake in it, who feel they have nothing to lose. Who stake in their society want to protect the society, but when they don't have it, they unconsciously want to destroy it. I wish for all, us all, to be taking this moment. God bless. Thank you.
Indeed, bringing us back to our national responsibility for deliberate engagement. And of course, that's what today is about, to think about the climate through a philosophical lens. I'm going to announce the next two items, because following our next item, which is a cultural piece, and that's brought to us by Kidus One. Have I pronounced it correctly? See, I don't even know who I'm supposed to be. Have I pronounced it correctly? It is I, my apologies. See, this is why I asked. Because I didn't know there was a Kidus too. Yes? Following that, we're going to begin the panel discussion, and Professor Badakola will take over at the podium in introducing the panel and introducing both items at the same time. Sir Kidus, over to you.
Yes, bless the Lord. It's peculiar because my group played in 2019 in Paris at the UNESCO headquarters, live for the first time, for the 50th anniversary, I think, and the recognition of reggae as an art form. So I was surprised, I didn't even know it was like UNESCO. Go on, good? Yes. My brother. All right, let's see. Now, it is said that there will be justice, salvation in the earth. UNESCO and in the philosophies, let's thrive through green for life. Sustainable community development programs from the equator, Capricorn to Cancer. All right? We can show the whole formula for this. Thrive through green for life. No religion, no ethnicity, no culture, no class, no creed. Green identified. And the most important thing to this is this. Where's the racism? Where's the division? The break of life. So if we start teaching stewardship, shepherds, husbandman, husband, woman, caretakers, from the bambinos, knowing that you are a part of nature life, and you're given shepherdship of Mama Earth. Right? So hence green for life, if we want to thrive. Right, so we go on. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, oh now. Well, oh yeah, hey. Well, oh yeah, oh, oh, oh. Oh, yeah, hey. There will be no salvation here on earth until the poor their cries are heard. So come now, brothers up, and let's ride to the corner. I said for one, oh yes, one united word. Is he a rich man? His cries are heard, and the mighty men cries are heard. Open wide, why can't the poor? For the poor, they've been crying out for these many thousand years. The vibrations are traveling throughout this world. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Now that you and I crying out for unity, that's what Marcus said. Yeah, that's what God said. I tell you better, it's gotta come now. Yes, better has got to come, but it's only gonna come now. Starting with you and you, and you and you. I say, better gotta come now. Here better has got to, but it's only gonna come, hey, starting with you and you, Well, yeah, hey, hey. It's the judgment is at hand now. Hey, judgment is at hand. What you gonna do? Tell me now. What you gonna do? You see the blood of the poor martyred souls crying out, oh yes, crying out. Pretty soon there'll be lightning, thunder, earthquake, whirlwind, and fire. Be a crashing in. Yes, you will. Wicked ones, unjust ones, and all of those who use my people's rights. Oh yes, for their own gains. Hey, hey. So, until there's equal rights and justice for all. And the justice will only come when we become shepherds, husbandman, husband, caretakers of Mama Earth. Husbandman, husbandwoman, caretaker. There are children in New York schools. Do you know where eggs come from? Oh yeah, they come from the supermarket. They come from the shops. Kids don't even recognize are so separated from the reality of that. Everybody identifies. That's the fact.
Starting on the existing protocol, to start with, to introduce our distinguished panelists. Focus on the major theme of the day. He is fond of asking fundamental questions. And in relation to the before us, nature, whether we have responsibility for the environment. As individuals and as a collective, the fundamental question is that, do we have responsibility to or for the environment? The answer is yes, then why? And of course, if the answer is no, then why not? Our panelists will do justice to this question, that is yes or no. What is important in philosophy is the ability to adduce reason for your position. So if you say no, why? And if you say yes, why? I will just mention that our panelists are actually made up from the town and the town. In other words, some of them are academics here on campus, when others are also from outside the campus. And with that brief introduction, I would like to introduce our panelists, and I will use the program as a guide. First of all, I want to introduce Dr. Rotimi Omosulu, who is a lecturer in philosophy in the Department of Language, Linguistics and Philosophy. Prior to joining UWI, he was lecturer in philosophy in Redeemers University in Nigeria. BA Honors 2002, MA 2006, and of course, in 2015, he bagged PhD in philosophy. All these degrees are in philosophy. From the University of Lagos, Nigeria. He also obtained certificate in sustainable development, goals and cultural transformation from the University of Bergen, Norway in 2015. His research interests cover environmental ethics, and that is why he is qualified to be on the panelists, logic, metaphysics, and philosophy of development. He has published in scholarly journals and books, and he co-edited Introduction to Philosophy and Logic in 2014, and Fragmental Identities of Nigeria, Social, Political, and Economic Crisis in 2022. Dr. Omosulu is presently the coordinator of philosophy section. Kindly join me to welcome our second panelist is Mr. Hyo Shim. Mr. Shim attended the University of Southern Maine, US, United States, MBA in philosophy. Of course, that is why he is also qualified to be member of the panel. His final year essay was titled Change in Reality. Of course, we had much about reality this morning as the core concern of philosophy. He went on to earn an MSc in education. Mr. Hoy plays soccer and coached the women's field hockey team. At USN, he became a member of the Phi Nu Delta fraternity. Soon after graduation, he returned to Jamaica and spent 6 years at the Sam Sharp Teachers College as a lecturer in guidance and counseling, an educator, and he established the youth club and marching band. In 2004 and 2010, he worked at the Jamaican Tourist Board and the Tourist Product Development Company, where he eventually headed the Tourism Training Unit. A major achievement for Mr. Hugh is that he developed the Team Jamaican program and various community tourism programs, and funded Jamaican Crossfields in 2010. Mr. Shim taught courses including tourism management at UWI campus, and he was also a guest lecturer in psychology courses at the University of Technology Montego Bay campus. He was offered honorary fellow of the Montego Bay Community College in 2018. He joined the Montego Bay Marine Park Trust, where he is currently engaged in the care and protection of the marine environment. You can also see why he is also qualified to be part of this panel. Finally, Mr. Shim has a strong sense that if all of us behave ethically, the world will be a better place. Please join me to welcome Mr. Shim to the podium. And our third panelist is our own Dr. Nico, who holds a PhD in history, and she's a lecturer in in the Institute of Caribbean Studies, Faculty of Humanities and Education. Her research interests include food heritage and climate justice, business culture and economic development, Caribbean socio-economic, history, language, and representation in popular Jamaican music, mouthful. Dr. Krumah has served as Deputy Dean Marketing and Outreach. Dr. Krumah, kindly join me to welcome Dr. Krumah. Is Pastor Uma Oliphant, who is an ordained minister of religion for the Seventh-day Adventist World Church, and currently serves as the Public Affairs and Religious Liberty Director of the East Jamaican Conference and as the Senior Pastor of the Andrews Memorial Seventh-day Adventist Church. As a public servant, Pastor Oliphant serves as Justice of the Peace, JP, Chairman of the Board of Governors, Brownstown University, Brownstown High School, Chaplain, University of the West Indies, Mona Campus, and former board member of the Rural Water Supply Limited Mandate, Regional Hospital Management Committee, among other school boards where you serve. Pastor Oliphant is also an attorney at law and is happily married to Charlotte Carby. The union has produced 3 children. Please, gentlemen and ladies, join me to welcome Pastor Oliphant to the podium. Philosophy is a methodological discipline. It has procedure for everything. And therefore, I just want to announce that the panel discussion, we have 40 minutes. Is that not okay? 40 minutes for the discussion. Okay? And so, out of these 40 minutes, I would like to share it as follows. We are allowed 5 minutes for presentation. Okay? All the panelists will present, and then we are going to listen to them. And if you have any questions and comments, kindly keep them when it is time for Q&A. And after that, the floor will be open for questions. Answer. From the list, I would like to welcome Dr. Rotimi Omochulu to serve already by discussing on the topic for us. Thank you.
Still in the morning. Good morning, everyone. If you are in the afternoon, good afternoon, everyone. I don't know what the time is. It is because the concept of time is difficult to pin down. I'm here to make the affirmation that we have responsibility to the environment. Let me start by asking you this question. Do you think your existence on this planet, is that necessary? Do you think you're supposed to be on this planet? If you don't have any answer, I will answer the question. Like I said, your existence is unnecessary. The planet does not need you to be. If you are a Christian, go back to the book of Genesis. In the beginning, God created the heaven and earth. Human beings were not created first. Plants and animals existed before us. We need them to exist. Therefore, we must show responsibility. Because if we do not show responsibility, our actions will be self-disruptive. In philosophy, especially environmental philosophy, we have two dominant schools of thought. The first is that our responsibility to nature should be centered around human beings. That the way we have responsibilities to our fellow human beings, we must also show responsibilities to nature because of our interests. Another school of thought is that our responsibility to nature should be because the nature, animals and plants have inherent worth. They have their own value. They live towards their own ends. So we shouldn't make judgments on the basis of our interests. Why must I protect nature because nature serves me? That shouldn't be. Why must I take care of animals because I will need them for food? I will need goat or cat to play with just because of my interest. You are growing flowers, you are maintaining your garden just because of the aesthetic aspect of it. That is not the reason why you have to protect nature. So, the question now is this: what are we supposed to protect? Because there's no way we can begin to talk about care for nature without also talking about sustainability. In 1987, Brooks Commission defines sustainable development as actions that meet the need of present generation without compromising the needs of the future generation. That is what sustainability is from the Brundtland Commission of 1987. In one of my papers, I have argued that environment should not be protected because of the future generation. Why? Because future generation is not a reality. We should instead protect the environment because of the present generation. Because the present is a continuum. Whoever will come from future, if my great-great-grandchildren will come, they must come and join the present generation. Therefore, the protection of the environment, the care for the environment must be based on the present generation. So, what are we supposed to protect for us to sustain our environment? Is it the water, the animals, plants? Arguments have come from different perspectives in philosophy. We have ecocentrism, we have theocentrism, we have ecofeminism, we have biocentrism, and that is where my focus is in the field of philosophy. I believe that human life is not superior to the life of animals and plants, and if we value our life, we must also value their own lives too. Life is equal. You can easily take life out of me. Why must I also be malevolent towards nature? Why can't I be benevolent? And if I'm benevolent towards non-human nature, non-human beings, non-human entities of the environment, that kind of benevolent attitude of me would also be extended to my fellow human beings. That is the reason why environmental sustainability must not be rested on my interest alone, because life is equal. The equality of life is the basis, or should be the basis. I don't want to be autocratic, I don't want to be dictatorial, but I'm just drawing your attention to the fact that responsibility to nature shouldn't be because nature serves us. It must be because all lives deserve the right to exist. At the beginning of this, my comment is to lay the theoretical foundation for this discussion, and I think I have done that in order not to exceed my time. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dr. Moshulu. I'm very sure people are listening to you. People have listened to you because there are a lot of controversial statements that you make. Like to respond to whether indeed we have responsibility for future generations. Thank you for your time and your discussion. Next, Dr. Isaac.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Let me just say thanks for the invitation, because back in the day when I wanted to study philosophy, that was not even thought of at UWI, right? And now I'm here representing philosophy in my own right? And before I go on, before I miss anything, because I know in like manner in Jamaica, when you have panels and when you have speakers, if you check your notes, they cover everything you have on your paper, right? So I'm just going to try and focus on some of the things that I think they can do. Before I even go further now, we're talking about responsibility and how we show responsibility for the environment. One of the things is funding it, giving money for research and so forth, and that was part of my presentation. But because I see Dr. Wallace here, and at our 25th anniversary, it was 5 years ago when we made a presentation and he was at it. To borrow an American word, the Montego Bay Marine Park was about to be defunded by theft. In other words, make your own money, like everybody's saying, become an executive agency. Dr. Wallace was there and he went to bat for us. And lo and behold, we are still around and we're still getting funds from them. So thank you very much, sir. Okay, human responsibility and the environment. I prepared a nice PowerPoint so you could see nice pictures of our gullies and beautiful waters in comparison. But that is not to be, so hopefully we can paint a picture. And by the way, it's the first time in Kudos we just decided to do a thing. So sometimes that's how you have to spin things, right? Okay, so as this presentation is on World Philosophy Day, I didn't even know that such a day existed, right? I know you have days for everything, but I didn't even know that. So I would like to take an ethical viewpoint, and I'm sure everybody pointed that out already, and the other panelists will talk about that. But I would like to start with a psychological principle and logic. So if we apply psychology, that we all assume that everybody should love themselves. That's a big assumption, right? But we're starting from that point, that you should love yourself, and therefore you should do anything that would assist you in meeting your needs of health, safety, belongingness, joy, and love. Some of you who have done so, psychology and sociology will recognize both. The second premise, which has already been established, that we are all part of nature, we belong. It's not nature versus nurture. We have always heard that argument. Which is it, nature or nurture? It's both, right? So as I said, the introductions and panelists already established that, so I don't have to go into that. So it also follows that whatever we do, like our body, if we harm any part of our body, it's going to affect the whole of our body, our heart, our brain, our weight, and everything. So if we are part of nature, belong to nature, anything that we do to harm nature will harm us, and vice versa. And I think that point has already been made. So, parts of our body like skin, flesh, and bones, the elements, earth, wind, and fire, and those are names of some singing groups, by the way. The older ones of you will know who those are. So, all of that affects us. So it stands to reason that if we care for the environment, we care for ourselves. So caring for the environment happens simultaneously and homogeneously. The smallest action has consequence. And I plug in the little scientific knowledge that I have. For example, you plant a tree, it bears fruit, it holds the soil, it feeds someone, it prevents soil erosion, it gives off oxygen. If you plant a forest, the effect multiplies. If you protect the parrotfish from the marine park's point of view, the reefs get healthy, food increase, coastal erosion is reduced, carbon is absorbed, we can swim and enjoy the beach, and we can relieve stress and increase our well-being. Some social consequences, for example, if you use poisonous chemicals to kill weeds and insects, flowers may not pollinate naturally, fruits don't grow, people get hungry, prices rise, we all get angry when we see the price tag on the tomato. It may cause cancer eventually. People are not healthy. The security system suffers, the health system suffers. So everybody takes a hit just by one small consequence of farmers starting using pesticides to kill off insects. I was just watching a program last night that showed that people are going back to natural farming, using birds to kill insects. So the consequences are real, but however, we must follow research, and I think that was said before. We have to use the information that we get from UWI or from whoever that we can make the proper personal choices. Okay, personal choice. This is a little bit different, and I want to emphasize from my point of view, even though I'm speaking as marine park. Your emotions, your pleasure seeking is strong, and avoidance of pain is the other motivator. So what we're saying is like you make your decision based on pleasure and love. In other words, what does love have to do with the environment? You love yourself, you take care of yourself. You love the environment, you take care of the environment. So love has a lot to do with it. The emotions must come in because what it does, it is a thing that motivates you the most. And in closing, I'll just add this little piece because I tell people this all the time. After I graduated, I could have well lived in the United States. You know, I had my green card and everything. And I said, hold on a second. Why should I live here when I live in Montego Bay and Dr. Scale Beach is right here? Why? So I came home. And as a matter of fact, you know that in order to keep your green card, you have to keep going back and giving up taxes and all of this. And the day I went there, and I told the lady, look, I don't want this, you know. She looked at me as if I was mad and pushed back the green card to me. And I just took it and went out. And saying that, love for your country, your community. Dr. Scave, I tell people all the time, Dr. Wallace, Dr. Scave is the reason I live in Jamaica. And why I won't live in Kingston. Thank you very much.
Personally, two things that I will take away from Mr. Shin's presentation. There is this connection between psychology and sociology. Love yourself first, extend that love to other people. And secondly, that there is a dialectical relation between nature and human being. Whatever you do to nature, you are going to get the appropriate reward or return. If you are good to nature, nature will be good to you. And of course, I don't want to take the reverse, but positions that we are maintained by Mr. Chin, and definitely when it comes to question and answer time, we can actually ask further questions. Okay, for the meantime, thanks, Mr. Chin, for your presentation. I would like to have Dr. Kuma on the floor. Thank you.
Observed. I know that I have 5 minutes, but I wanted to title what I was going to talk to you about today as history, heritage, and philosophy, the humanities in general, in mediating the relationship between humans and the environment. Consequence of being a shorty. So the question is, where does the humanities fit? The discussion decidedly scientific meaning. Long before, it was oral histories and oral traditions evidencing the practices that preserve the environment. My focus today will be to explore the role of the humanities in nature, touching on the collaborative projects that we've been involved in and their potential for expansion and application. I wanted to young attendee in a workshop for one of my projects entitled Recipes for Resilience. And she said, you know, we learn from each other. And that's when we make our world, our community, a better place by learning. And, you know, open your eyes and experience it. Philosophy is another word that I wanted to talk to you about. No, I know that Dr. Mohan Singh, right? Dr. Simeon Mohan Singh was my tutor about years ago. And I did a research paper on philosophy, and that was when I realized that there was a connection between philosophy and the world. And it looks at the balance between nature and human beings, a kind of harmony. This is a nice new term for an ancient practice. And when you think about it, we've moved away from ancient history and practices, and we've enveloped or developed a set of actions and behaviors that go counter to ecosophy. And so as a result, our future, our present is very uncertain. Compared to the ancient world, well, we're exploiting not just each other, but the environment. There's a disconnection between man and the environment, and we're very much connected to things that we produce that can last a millennium. How did we get here? That's the question of, answered by the Plantationocene, by the Anthropocene, and I mean those, I don't have the time to explain what those are, but it looks at the legacy of the plantation and that culture and legacy of exploitation. But there are answers that come from our indigenous people, the Tainos, answers that come to us from our African practices. Answers like agrarian practices like conical agriculture. The balance with nature, how to plant in harmony with the seasons. Sovereignty, so that we're not always depending on individuals bringing things to us. We use or harness this kind of heritage, because I know I'm running out of time. Well, we have 2 projects. There's Recipes for Resilience, in which we use the music and stories to harness ancestral heritage and pass that knowledge. One set of workshops that my group did. Now, incidentally, I keep on talking about that group and the project. We are multidisciplinary. We're historians, we're anthropologists, we are climate scientists, we are bioethicists and bioethnographers, we are historians, and that's a huge multidisciplinary group that shows you that the way forward on any discussion of climate justice, the environment and nature must be a multidisciplinary and an interdisciplinary one. And I will stop there.
Thank you, Dr. Kuma. You have actually exercised as a historian, a multidisciplinary intellectuality. We thank you for your thoughts. Before I call Pastor Oliphant, you see, the word nature has been interpreted from different perspectives, and I think my coming out. Baruch Spinoza, who was a modern philosopher, actually interpreted nature as God. As God. Of course, that view is called pantheism. So, it is good that one of the panelists is a pastor. I believe maybe he will have a kind of multi-dimensional interpretation of nature. I call upon Pastor Oliphant. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege to be here on this World Philosophy Day, to join with my esteemed colleagues in discussing this very important topic, the question of nature, human responsibility, and the environment. I've listened very intently to the panelists before me, and I've picked up from what they have said that I will talk with, Dr. Omosulu a little bit about it. We can dialogue on theological differences we may have, their perspectives in respect of human beings and animals. Dr. Shin has grounded the conversation on the platform of love, and Dr. Plummer has effectively launched us into the realm of harmony and how we can learn from our ancestral, pull from the heritage that we have, in how they actually navigate and learn so that we also can draw knowledge from that. I am particularly interested today in drawing on the human responsibility aspect. And no, I will not enter the debate of the realm of what nature is and pantheism. That's another time and another place. But I want to speak to the issue of human responsibility. We, perhaps, as the Pew Research has indicated, live in an age where the youngest cohort of generations, the Gen Zs, are advocates for climate change. It's perhaps the greatest moment for us to bring about the necessary changes needed to ensure that we do the protection of the environment. And I'm putting to us that this opportunity must not be missed, that this is a great opportunity between the millennial generation and the Gen Zs to ensure that we engage in practices which bring about the harmony that is spoken of, the love that is needed, and of course the kind of heritage learning that is being put forward for our discussion today. Vision 2030 here in Jamaica is aiming to make Jamaica the place to live, work, raise families, and do business. And without a doubt, we will need a new mindset to become a first world country. Putting together the current generational shift and the generational perspective on the environment and nature, within the Vision 2030, there lies for us a critical opportunity. And the Gen Zs and the millennials are philanthropists who are advocates, not just for climate change, but also for ensuring that social policy and the policies that surround our day-to-day lives are ones that are grounded in the future that they want to actually create. So I understand that you're batting for the present generation, but no doubt there is a generation that will be coming after us. And so there are three things that I would like to combine today. I would like to combine the issue of the opportunity between the Gen Zs and the millennial generation, together with 3 aspects of human responsibility that we can take at this moment in making sure that we preserve nature and environment in a very sustainable way. The first one is, the first pillar, is that there is a need for education. We can gather all of us here today who are already advocates and believers in the need for maintaining the environment and nature at a particular level. But there is a world out there, and the UN has put out the information this week, the data, indicating that we are now at 8 billion individuals. Of course, that is across 7 particular areas within the world, India being one of them, that has high levels of pollution that is greatly affecting not just the individual's health, but also the nurture of children in the educational system. We are at this pillar, at this time, the pillar of education needs to become one that is firmly rooted and firmly planted, not just in the academic institutions, but also in the social media spaces and the place younger cohorts, the millennials and the Gen Zs actually exist. If we want to make a change and if we want to make a dent, we have to put in place a robust educational program to ensure that those individuals who are messing up the environment can be educated in respect of the consequences of doing so. The second plank that I would like to put forward for consideration today is the need for collaboration. So yes, there is education, but the second pillar or the second plank is the need for collaboration. In order to ensure that what is needed and is, you see across the G20 and the coming together, our colleague Prime Minister from Barbados, Mia Motley, did a very strident, persuasive, passionate speech around to the UN, indicating to them about the need for us to address climate change. And I am aware that there are individuals who do not believe in climate change. There are individuals who doubt it. I'm not going to go into that debate today. The question is whether or not, with all the networks that we have in place today, with all the systems, are we doing this alone or are we coming together to do it together? I am suggesting that whereas education is necessary, that at this pivotal moment we need to have collaboration between private and public sectors to ensure that we can meet the necessary targets, because China is already creating a sun for itself to try and address the climate change and to all that is happening here with the ozone layer. But are we doing it alone? Or are we coming together as individuals who have interest in nature, interest in the environment, to ensure that we can preserve it for the future? So the first plank is education, the second plank is of course collaboration, and the third plank, forgive my my role as an attorney at law elsewhere, but it's in me. The third plank has to be advocacy. We have to be advocates in the public and the private space, yes, for policies and for regulations and for laws which meet the necessity of the day to which we have come. So many of our laws today are antiquated, out of sync with the current realities. And I'm saying we need to have advocates, not just in Parliament, but we need to have advocates in the business and the private sector to ensure that this great issue of our responsibility to the environment, our responsibility to nature, comes alive in real and living colors. Ladies and gentlemen, I put these three to you for your consideration.
Vision, collaboration, and advocacy. Candidates as sine qua non for climate change. Thank you, Mr. Oliphant, for your brilliant presentation. We now come. First of all, I have to thank our distinguished panelists for sticking to the time. their presentations were clinical and straight to the point. And so I thank them for that time management. Now, the session we are now is question and answer session. And I would suggest that this is how it will go. First of all, if you have a question, kindly signify. And I think there's a mic there. Identify yourself, identify your department or whatever association to which you belong, and then ask your question. Please, we want questions. We do not want another presentation. Ask your question and then try to identify whom that question is due. Question and answer time. Yes, please, miss, please go to the mic and identify yourself.
And I'm from the Social Sciences Department. My major is anthropology. And my question for the environment, or are you caring for people? I would be more focusing on humans themselves instead of the environmental model.
My perspective, thanks so much for your question. My perspective is that both coexist. I love the language that Dr. Plummer uses of having. So it's not one or the other. It's not caring for human beings at the risk of caring for Mother Earth, the environment, or caring for Mother Earth at the risk of caring for human beings. We need each other to survive. And it is important for in the conversation relating to human responsibility and care, it goes both ways. So we need nature to take care of ourselves, and nature depends on us to ensure that we are proper stewards, as was said earlier. So for me, it's not one or the other, it's the both of them traversing together.
Thank you. Any other? Yes, please.
Barring presentation. I am Peter Wallace. I'm executive director of the TDA, but really my question is just being a regular Jamaican. And considering the care and credentials that we have with our crime rates and the SOEs and all this today, and I think as philosophers, my approach to philosophy is that it inspires, it fundamentally focuses a nation, our hearts, to focus for the philosophy of peace, harmony, of collaboration, of the things that are required to steer our nation in the right direction. It's upon us. And I wonder if there is an existing philosophy coming out of the department, or one that is already existing that we should galvanize around. Should we invest more in marketing, in more PR? Using it enough to captivate and stir the hearts of Jamaicans. A solution, particularly with the care and present challenge that we have. If I personally, and if I ask others, is the one that holds one race superior and another inferior. I'm going with this because it was spoken by Haile Selassie and made popular by Bob Marley and so on. Can we get a positive, we know the philosophy we want to get rid of, what is the replacement? is that clear in the minds and hearts of our Jamaicans? I'm not sure. I want to suggest that we make efforts towards creating that clear philosophy that can steer Jamaica to that we can live, raise families, and I know what we're talking about. So that's my charge to the department and to the university and to all of us well-thinking Jamaicans here. Thank you.
I just want to create the indulgence of my distinguished panelists and respond to, that is an advice, not really a question. Well, philosophy, just like my colleague has suggested, is a critical discipline. And there are two aspects to the discipline. There's the negative aspect, and of course, there's the positive aspect. The negative aspect represents the critical attitude to criticize existing realities. Stop there, but also want to provide alternatives that can replace the existing realities that we are trying to critique. Now, in philosophy, we have been holding this kind of thing for several years now. We have two major events that actually showcase philosophy. The Gandhi Day, which was celebrated October 2nd, and UNESCO Day, which is celebrated the third week in November of every year. Our attempt is to localize philosophy by trying to project what philosophy is all about and how philosophy can be useful to the environment and to our people. Presently, we are developing a program on leadership and professional ethics, trying to spell out what is leadership all about. Are leaders made, or are they talented, or they are created? We also want to raise ethical issues, because that is our major concern, in relation to major sociological institutions within our society, maybe in government or corporate institutions. This is what we are trying to do at present. But every time, whatever opportunity that we get, we usually want to project when philosophy is needed in our society. Even though we've not been having what can be regarded as a positive response. And we sometimes know the reason. Philosophy is not a course that is offered at the primary and secondary school level. Some of us get to know philosophy at university level. Even at university level, there are many students who graduated from UWI who did not have a tincture of philosophy. It is regrettable. But we are trying to correct, because I regard that as an anomaly, and we are trying to correct it. And so we have heard you, and we are trying, it's a challenge that we are trying to respond to. And I think with time, the society can feel our impact as philosophers. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Wallace. I'd like to just share some ideas, because I've been around a very long time, although I still look like 20. As a background in behavioral science, the thing to do with crime, it still comes down to one thing, is love, you know. And it might sound a little bit corny, right? But love means caring, taking responsibility. It's the same way that we take care of ourselves and our environment. These inner cities, call it said, these are the hotspots, the inner cities. They say inner city no more, but imagine capital of casual turn T, no. But anyway, so we would engage in the youth, and we hear it all the time, and we hear people talk about it all the time. You have programs where you put elderly with young people. We have a problem with taking care of our elderly, we have a problem with taking care of our youth. Put the two of them together. Young people love old people, babies love old grandparents love babies. So, one program I've seen, and I watch a lot of documentaries, where they use prisoners, and I'm not saying it have to get to the point of in prison. Prisoners have been farmed, they're learning to take care of something. Because what you find is that they have no love in their life, and that's why it becomes. So if you start getting persons to start hearing, whether it's for a plant, or an animal, or somebody else, that is where the whole philosophy of I and I, basically, and that's not just a Rasta term, Martin Buber knows. It's I and I are one, right? So we can't think dually, we have to think singular. And it's come down to that basic philosophy that we're trying to get in the schools so that people, that at an early age, people can understand that, look, anything I do affects you and vice versa. And let it become a reality. Thank you very much.
I'd just like to say, we could, as I said from before, the bambinos, you know, but in truth, idle lands, so much idle hands. And spent idle lands get idle hands from all over to create sustainable community development programs that they can see a light down the tunnel as participant players in this reconstruction. Because all what is said, if the masses aren't peaceful and taken care of, you won't sleep well in your beds. And the continuous generation of vipers now bred. And I can tell you when. We saw it in the 70s, after confrontation of politics developed in Jamaica, destroying communities. The viciousness of both sides, garnering right hand, bad man, left hand, bad man, to confront each other. Instead of on ship Jamaica, captain, pilots, and management, with nearly 3 million sailors to row the ship to success, now deliberately destroyed through confrontation, politics, division. And then the generation of vipers, through the now media, have so that spirits that exist. The idle lands and the idle hands need to be sustainable community development programs, a vision down the road, self and others around. Otherwise, from that, we're talking back.
Mr. Johansson?
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. And thanks to the panelists for the enlightened discussions. Do you remember those days? Yeah. My question, in particular to Mr. Omar Oliphant, in the capacity as a Minister of Religion, it has been my experience that the church seems, for the most part, to be bashing education. But yet, one of the pillars that you have presented, one of the three, is education. Would you think this is inherently contradictory to the position from where you sit? And would climate change and education, or let me rephrase that, would teaching spiritual doctrines education regarding or climate be mutually exclusive?
would you consider that to be? Why then can we not promote both? The second question, there seems to be, even anecdotally, a correlation between crime and the environment. Could it be that the more crimes we have, the more destructive we become to our environment? I'm challenging the university this morning, if it has not yet been doing so, to have a research done so that where we are domiciled, we can be better educated on how to proceed in protecting our environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doc, for your position forward. I have noted the 2 points: climate change, science and religion, education and religion. Well, let me deal with the first one, because for those individuals who grew up in the Caribbean are very well aware that educational institutions and churches go hand in hand. In fact, here in Jamaica, we have perhaps more church schools than we do have otherwise. So it's very important for us to understand that the church has always been advocate for education. To be an uneducated Christian fosters ignorance. And it's not that we don't have Christians who are not educated at tertiary level. What we're under church as a whole is not averse to education. There is the other perspective of science and its role or its interreligion. Now that's for another discussion another time. Dissect it. But that in every dimension and area of life, every school of thought, area of philosophy, in every area of education, every branch of education, you will not find any 2 schools of thought having. So it is okay to have a diverse view. It's okay. In the pursuit of philosophy, we ask the question, what is of value? We ask the question, what is truth? And what is meaning? And so it is a constant persuasion. I'm sure when I was growing up, I see a number of the individuals from, I believe, the Roman Catholic here today, but when we were growing up, we were told that the world was flat. The psalmist in the scriptures does not speak of a flat world, but a world that is. So science sometimes catches up on religion. Ethical aspects to that conversation that we can have. So my viewpoint is that when it comes on to climate change, I am not one who is of the viewpoint, like some of my friends in the United States, that there is no climate change. Once we are Christians, it means we're advancing that position of no climate change. I do believe that there's changing. Science is showing us and has shown us, and we have seen it and we are seeing it, that there are indeed changes in how the entire world. So for me, education and religion are one and the same. In respect to your idea of correlation, I'm sure as this is a university campus, does not always equate to. So I wouldn't take up the conversation on crime and environment here. I think that is one that would need a more scientific on to explore.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the presentation. It was very. My name is Jashari Monroe. I am from the Faculty of Science. All mentioned that it is our collective responsibility to care about the environment. Dr. Plummer would have stated that science, the science department, has taken the lead when it comes to biodiversity and creation of biospheres and that sort of thing. And Omar mentioned that collaboration is very important. So my question is considering that science has taken the lead and there are a lot of publicly posted action plans in the field of science as it relates to creating biodiversity. Are there any in the field of philosophy which would create a sense of urgency within the communities for persons to really accept that responsibility that you have stated is all of ours? And if there is not a publicly posted action plan, are there any out so that it is accessible for the general public?
Yeah, I wanted to, I know I'm not necessarily from the field of philosophy, but I do have some experience in working with a collaborative group that includes historians and the various groups that I've spoken to before. Important, and what we found in doing our research and where the research is at right now, where the discussions are, is science brings us the facts. But there's a disconnect between the science and the ordinary man on the road. Right? And so what we found is that the gap is about how do we science touch people's hearts? How do we change behavior or modify behavior? And that's where humanities comes in. And that's where communication comes in. And that's where philosophy and ecosophy comes in. Because what we've found over the years is that the scientists have not been silent, but then you have emerging groups of people who are deniers. And so people take a position, a polemical position, that is antithetical to accepting climate change as a reality. And then they create their own science to change and alter that. No. What we do, and in our work, one of the things that we did was that we used stories, and we used the youth that we worked with, because that's where the education aspect of it is important. You work with the youth and amongst the youth, and you use their voices. So there was a song that we did that came from the youth themselves, and that is how you put it in action. Because, you know, Generation Z and millennials, of which I am one, right? We're very passionate about the environment, and it came out in song, right? And we use ancestral history in the song and connect them to their past. The other project that we're actively involved in right now works with 4-H teachers, because 4-H teachers will of primary school children. And what we created was an ancestral garden, and creating the pattern of the ancestral garden for it to be done in other schools, and to create an online ancestral cookbook that's a resource that anyone coming up can access. We also have a website for our recipes for project with a story map of collection of stories of herbs. So what you find coming out of these different projects is that there's song, there's connection to story, and there's connection, there's communication, there is connecting youth to their past. Because there's this idea that yam, banana, breadfruit, that those cassava is old people food, that slave food. Forward, and we are working through that, and we are inserting the humanities and education into discussions of climate change, because the science alone isn't going to get us where.
I'd like to ask a follow-up question. Are there any...
Just before you go to the follow-up question, I want to add one. Have to reach the point where it's good to have social change, but it has to be engineered. And it has, if you notice in the United States, for example, the United States up to yesterday, the social fabric had so changed that even in the Republican Party, there was a 71% percentage of preference for accepting same-sex marriage. That is significant coming from the Republican Party. So the social change does not always yield itself to or lend itself to a legislative change. And it's always the legislative tickets. So we have to become advocates. We have to let our voices be heard, because politicians respond to votes. And it's where politicians recognize the votes are that it drives the agenda. If we want to make that change become impactful, our voices have to be heard. And sometimes you can have a law that precedes the change, but there are other times when it is the change that precedes the law. And so we have to find exactly what works for us here to engineer that kind of change that you desire to see.
Thanks so much, everyone. And I want to technical fees is not the answer. So climate change is just an answer. But we shouldn't consider it as the only answer if truly we continue to witness diversity. If you cast your mind back, you will discover that scientific revolution of 18th century laid the foundation for the domination of nature. And for us to find a solution to it, we must move from science to philosophy, because ethics is about human behavior. If it's necessary for you to consume plants, to consume protein from animals, and the same scientists, they will go to the laboratory, use animals for experiments without considering the value of the animal, the attitude of domination. So therefore, if you look at it from the perspective of what philosophers are saying, environmental ethicists, about thinking about value, do we suppose to dominate nature or to coexist with nature? Because our life, we go extinct. We think we are at the end of human evolution. And I can tell you that we do not know for sure that this is the end of human evolution. We can go to the higher level, which is extinct. So science cannot give us that robust solution to climate change, to environmental problems, unless we look at it from the angle of ethics, which is about changing our behavior, our level of consumption, consumerism. If we think that we can continue to consume this and that, at the end of the day it will impact on nature. Because we need nature to survive. I said it earlier, nature does not need us to survive. So the answer is in humanities, in ethics. And that is the reason why we are having this type of conversation. Thank you.
And I just want to add to that, young lady, there's a course in philosophy, that is philosophy of science. Many of your colleagues have been offering that course for several years now. And which level are you, please?
First year.
Very good. It's a second year course. It's philosophy of science, and these issues that are being discussed actually form part of the course outline. And in that course, we want to collaborate with science. We want to know what science is, what philosophy is. Try to see how each other can collaborate with one another. Not only theoretically, but as Dr. Plummer suggested, even we can practicalize it.
My follow-up question was if there were any ways for students like myself to become involved in the projects. I know that you mentioned that they are education-based, that include teachers. I wanted to know if there were opportunities.
Yes, so there is
FHE ends, Caribbean Youth Environment Network, but also CB after. We always need volunteers. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon. I'm Rudolph Ellis, and I'm in the Department of Language and focus on philosophy. I want to thank the panelists for the insightful discussion and arguments that you have raised. They were very thought-provoking. I want to, before I ask a question, address Dr. Umashula. You said that the environment did not need us, but I beg to differ that the environment was created specifically for our existence. The environment is our home. And you can relate that to a microcosm example where we make homes to dwell there for comfort. Number two, the question I want to ask is this: do you think that it is overrated or it is being sold excessively, the notion that, or the idea that the climate is in danger, as a result we need to do something about it? I ask this question: do you think it is overstated that the climate is in danger and human beings need to take responsibilities? While I hand that question out there, let me make statements. Professor Bamikoda mentioned Baruch Spinoza. He said that he believed that nature was God, but he heard there, God made nature. So God and nature is different. When we look at nature, we see it demonstrating and exhibiting autonomy because God gave them that. I want to juxtapose this second statement with what I just talked about. Human responsibility or human agency. I believe that we are responsible for our actions and we should do everything necessary to ensure that we make the best use and for the future and for the present of the environment. So the point is now, how do we reconcile the human agency with the idea and the fact that the environment has its own autonomy? So I'll go back to my question. Do you think it is an oversight?
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. I want you to know that the environment should not be perceived as an object created for human domination. That is anthropocentric. And what my research has been trying to demystify is that anthropocentric perspective on nature, thinking that man is at the top of the hierarchy, so we can do whatever we like. That is arrogant. Is to show that other lives are below or should be less valuable. There is no way the environment can be created. Even the concept of creation is highly controversial. Who creates? Were you there? How can you just say it that the environment was created for you? As a student of philosophy, I think you shouldn't jump into that kind of assumption. Just to interrogate those who believe in such an assumption. Thank you.
May I quickly respond?
Now, Mr. Rudo, you can interact with Mr. Wasu later. Because you have taken a... please, we are all students and research students. I just want you to go and do a research on that distinction between dominion and domination. Because these are two terms that are very, very important. They are different. All right. Do we still have questions? All right, please.
Good afternoon. Mr. Valentine, this question is I know you spoke on religion and education, but do you think our religious ministers are teaching exactly the philosophy of their school rather than teaching what is happening now in general? Because they're straying away from their philosophical point of view and directing their ideas towards what is now. So they're not teaching the basic concept of what Christianity should be teaching, but they're rather focusing on things like bad mind and negativity and all of those aspects, rather than God itself.
Well, I think religious communities do have a number of them, whether it's Christianity or otherwise, there are a number of religious communities which give specific attention to unique tenets of their faith and their beliefs. Sometimes what we hear at one time is not what is promulgated all the time. That it's necessary because faith is important in the conversation. So in as much as we are persons who are educated and we acknowledge aspects of science and we reject false science, we need to also be undergirded with as ministers and as practitioners within the faith with a clear message. That is what I'm hearing you say. There needs to be a sometimes it's all over the place. And sometimes what you get from one here is something different here. Not just on theological matters, but also on matters like these. And I agree with you that that can lend itself to in the discussion that individuals who are seeking clear, precise answers will not be able to get it. What I can say to you is that there are sufficient individuals who are persons of faith, who are within the educational fraternity, who believe in philosophy, practice it in a way that does no harm to either branches. Maybe we can have conversation as to some ways we can get those to the fore. But it happens. And I share with size understanding and communication on the matter.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are actually overspending our time. But I can see somebody who, started. Okay, please, can we have your question? Please, question, please. And the other person.
Okay, I'm from the Department of History and Archaeology. I'll make my question short. The first question is, does it matter if we act responsibly as humans? Because after all, we are the ones at the risk of extinction. So if we don't act responsibly, doesn't nature win in the end anyways? I was thinking about that from a philosophical perspective.
Your question there relates to a point earlier that I want to make sure I link before it slips me. Your colleague indicated to the end of his statement that nature will basically take its own course, which it does. So if we end up continuing destroying nature, then it will, like they say, water always finds its course. During the pandemic, we saw some pictures, very, very important. During the pandemic, we saw some pictures of sea areas, right? Even here in Jamaica, coastal lines were clearer and cleaner because there was not a lot of pollution inside. So human responsibility is essential, and we are destroying ourselves if we end up, in fact, destroying nature. The fact is, however, that the program, that's why I'm saying it's important that we have education, and the education doesn't just speak about formal education, it's speaking about education in the different areas, informal education, even through songs like Dr. Plummer has said, so that we can educate individuals as the harm that is happening with the environment by our own practices.
Which leads to the other question I wanted to ask. And I think Dr. Mashul will also give a chance and possibly Dr. Because if this is the case, are we then seeing a space or an opening for cultural renewal and a philosophical renewal, because we are in a country that is more than 50% of African lineage or African descent, Is there an opening now for us to return to respect for nature as we know our ancestors who have had it, and then respect for the different elements of nature and possibly the various orations or perhaps then we can see more respect, better respect for nature, and perhaps a better move toward human responsibility. That was my second question. And because I'm also concerned that I have not seen that sort of output from Christianity, and we see Christianity more present in our society than we see any form of African spirituality. Is this an opening for cultural renewal to include more African spirituality and to return for respect for the environment and by extension human responsibility?
I'll go first. I want to start here by saying that there's nothing new under the sun, and as I already know that. Because today recognize that the harmony is necessary. Nature we can do anything that we want in nature, it will balance itself out. But the thing is, it will balance itself out without us. Right? If you go from a theological perspective, then man was the last thing God created. And if you go from the scientific perspective, man is still amongst the most recently evolved. Fact is that nature really does not need us. We need it. And many indigenous cultures have recognized that. If you, for example, there is no way to extricate ourselves from that discussion. Now, as it relates to the ancients, there are ways in which, I'm going to tell you how I grew up. I grew up in a place. For the people of Lethe, River Muma was not a figurative, it was real. And River Muma was there to remind them that they needed our land. And come down, that is, there was a flooding, people come and they start clean. Labor Day was spent cleaning the spring, and so for a very long time that spring provided clean and safe water. And you knew there was this idea that the ticky fishes and the little fishes and so on were her children and so forth. So, and the spring was at the mouth of the Great River. So people saw cable TV and I saw a lot of things and people moved away. By the time my grandfather died, the spring looked great. I was the only one doing it, and then when I left permanently, stories, oratious deities, you don't have to worship them, but you should remember them because they serve an important role. Stories anchor us to our past, but they also, in the case of River Muma, in my territory, anchor us to our environment. So I look at how it is that we use Scandinavian mythologies and how familiar we are with Roman mythologies and how little we know about our origin. There are ways in which we can use them and connect to those stories and connect them, do that connection between the environment, the oracles, and people. And you don't have to believe in them because no one here believes in the Viking god Thor, but yet we're going to the movies, go watching. And I rest there.
Thanks so much, Dr. Plummer. You have answered the second question. Let me now respond to the first question. We have responsibility to nature because behave malevolently. There is a way your action can hinder the flourishing of nature. And if you go to the forest now with pesticide and you begin to spray all the mosquitoes, did they offend you? Why are you being aggressive towards them? No. The mosquitoes are here living their life. The one that, those that have come to your house, those are the ones you can attack. If you should not take chemical and pour chemical inside river, don't you think it would affect aquatic lives? So we need to consider our actions in the same sense that we consider our actions towards our fellow human beings. So that is where responsibility. It is not just any action we can perform. And this is the focus of environmental ethics. We must consider our moral relationship with nature. So you have responsibility, my professor here has responsibility, and I equally have responsibility of nature. In this rest of time,
one question. Please. Have time to interact after. Can we have the very last question? Last question. And it is a question, please. Question.
My name is Naisha and I'm an anthropology student, also student undertaking doctorate. You all have different points of view, so we believe that true progress can be made by differences in personal and religious views. And as you all said, it's a collaborative. I want to know what you would suggest going forward.
I suggest what?
Going forward,
is for us to continue to observe our moral relationship. Morality is what is sustaining our society. If morality can make us to live harmonious life in the society, because immorality and anarchy in the society. If morality is human society, that same morality will also sustain our relationship with nature. Otherwise, there is nothing we can do to achieve environmental sustainability. Morality is the answer, and that is why philosophy is more relevant into the whole conversation of climate change and environmental degradation. Thank you.
Just one.
The issue of collaboration is critical to us going forward. I don't think the differences are so substantive that we cannot come together to unite on points of common ground and common interest. And this is the one planet we have. As someone else said, this is the one. We understand that we breathe the same air, we're eating from the same land, and on that basis, we can find ways and means to come together. Dr. Plummer would have highlighted a number of areas from history, having the conversation that we can be able to engage with each other on. I am putting it to you that persons like Greta, you know Greta Thunberg, yes, are examples today as to what can be done. Initially when she started her fast on the steps, nobody was paying her any mind. But the more she continued, is the more other individuals came on stream. And so we have to be voices, and we also have to be persons who advocate by our lives, how we live it, for the great issue of preservation of nature and the environment.
Thank you. I've just been advised that you are expecting secondary school students, that they have not turned up and therefore we have another time. Just 5 minutes more.
My question is very short. This is in relation to climate change and call for climate reparations. We saw 27 this year, there's a call again for climate reparations. How can philosophy feed into that call for climate reparations, especially for small island developing states?
Well, the issue of reparation, no matter how we figure it, is a question of justice. Okay? Which means there are certain things that were done previously that has resulted in the present situation. And therefore, in order for us to right that wrong, we have to put in certain things. Okay? So, it means that whatever we have done that has brought us to this level, that is called climate change, we must recognize it, identify it, and then desist from it moving forward. And again, put in certain concrete situations that can actually lead us to the promised land. Somebody suggested the other time that the environment, I think it's Mr. Mohansen, vicious circle. The environment causes crime and inflicts certain injuries to the environment. You can see the connection. Let us go back, and I think I want to suggest to you that maybe you can offer one of our philosophy courses, that is Caribbean philosophy, in which we deal with what we call the poeticist school and the historicist school. The poeticist school is about looking back and trying to see what we have done rightly or what we have done wrongly, and then try to effect a change moving forward to the future. Okay? One cannot just be saying it right now, but that is the theoretical background. Recognize what has been done previously that has led us to this position. I used to tell my students, if we are living in a crime-ridden society, what has brought us here? What were we before that change? If we're able to trace back, then it is possible for us to recognize where we have gone wrong, try to effect change moving forward. That is what philosophy can do in practical terms. Thank you.
If I may say something regarding climate change, this is my own personal view. I do not really think there is climate change. We can talk about climate variability. But for us to say there is climate change, we must observe the climate over 30 years. Do we have facts? We have changes in our climate? Because right from the period of scientific revolution, the climate itself could change naturally without human actions. Why are we talking about climate change as if everybody is a contributor to it? There is equilibrium in nature and also disequilibrium in nature. So they have to, those climate change here and there, they must not reasonable doubt that they are not talking about climate variability rather than climate change. So that is why, that is where I have my reservation. And if human actions is what, if human actions actually are what responsible for climate change, the way I'm being forced to believe, then ethics is the answer. We must reconsider our actions. What are we doing wrong that we should be doing right? So that is where I would want us to leave this place and really ask fundamental questions whether truly there is climate change or we are dealing with politics of climate change. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think you need an international court of law for the industries and the corporations over the last years, which have totally destroyed all the root destroying the climate that we've been talking about. Others participants, enslaved beings, the master puppeteers, design of corporate and industrial disadvantage, destroying Mama Earth, the oceans, the land, etc., etc. The little too tough. It can be helpful in cleaning, but we have to take those who have created poisons, destructions, to be utilized and let loose in Mama Earth without any addressing to clean and to take care of what you created or they created, and then the masses have to suffer for it. They should be charged for international mutiny on Mama Earth. See? And when we can get to addressing these unseen, invisible hands that manipulate with sinister care the affairs of mankind, right? Then we might start getting somewhere. Otherwise, to me, we're going around in circles. And I respect each and every one, but I still hear circles. See? So when you want to talk about changes, thrive through green for life, sustainable community development programs, food, clothes, shelter, sick, nourished, age-protected infants cared for, and a reset of the mindset from academia and academics who have falsified through hundreds of years the truth, real truth. Thank you.
Most likely their part. You know what I know? History is his story, their story, not the true story. Yeah?
All right.
So the chemistry, physics, mathematics, science and technology. Most of everything is.
Thank you, sir. All right, I think we can still be going on and on, but we have to stop here. I just want to say that education is about change. And I think we have been educated this afternoon, from morning to this afternoon. And I believe also we have changed in relation to what we have discussed. And so I want to thank our panelists for their insightful discussion. Mr. Odifat in absentia, Dr. Pluma, Mr. Shin, and Dr. Moshulu. I think that whenever we call upon you, you will just answer us. Thank you very much. Now, before I hand over the mic to Kim, I want to invite Dr. Bala, Professor Bala, for an announcement. Prof.
Good afternoon. Greetings on the occasion of World Philosophy Day to all of you. You know the reason why UNESCO World Philosophy Day is being celebrated every year? It's not just for the sake of academicians of philosophy coming together and talking about philosophy and leaving it there. It is to take philosophy beyond the confines of philosophical academia. So how do we do that? Because World Philosophy Day document, if you read UNESCO's document, it talks about two important points. One is wonder, the other one is wisdom. Philosophy begins with wonder, and philosophy continues with wisdom. It's not just information, knowledge, but reflecting on reflection. That is important for wisdom. So taking these important things into consideration, and on this particular occasion of World Philosophy Day, the Department of language, linguistics and philosophy, especially the philosophy section, came together under the guidance of Professor Bamikole and under the wonderful, inspirational leadership of Dr. Omosuru, because everybody will definitely agree with me, the passionate way that he talks about philosophy, right? Dr. Omosuru and other younger colleagues that we have, we came together and we thought, what is it that we can do on this occasion to reach out to the people around us? One is the departments, because most of the departments, most of the colleagues are from other departments and most of the students have huge misunderstandings about what philosophy is. So how do we address them? So that's what brought us to this point that we should develop something called Talk to a Philosopher. Why don't we go out and stand on under the tree and hold this placard saying that talk to a philosopher, and if somebody gets interested and comes to us to talk what philosophy is, try to understand. Won't that be wonderful? Interesting? So this is the experiment that we are doing today, and this is being inaugurated, and we may continue with this experiment even in future. Weekly once we can do that, standing somewhere under the tree, holding this placard that talk to a philosopher. So this is what we had in our idea, in our mind when we thought of this experiment, and we are doing it. We are launching it today under the guidance of Professor Bamikole, and of course under the guidance of our head of the department, Professor Wilson White. After this program, we would be placing ourselves at 3 or 4 different places, one in medical sciences and one in the premises of Faculty of Law, one in the premises here itself, okay? So that if somebody is interested to know about philosophy and have a conversation with a philosopher, they are most welcome to do that. And this is what we are going to do. I seek all your cooperation. There are some students that I see. I request them to volunteer us. Yeah, it's there. Posters are there. We are going to hold some tables somewhere. You can see that, so that people can come and talk to us, right? So this is what we have to promote philosophy and make people realize the importance of philosophy. Thank you so much. Thanks for this wonderful opportunity that is given. Over to you, Professor. So this is what we will be doing.
Well, thank you, Prof. So there are 4 centers, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. And those centers have been identified?
Yeah. One is in the medical sciences, Faculty of Medical Sciences. One is near Faculty of Law, and one would be here itself. Okay, and the other one would be somewhere near Juicy Patties. So that these are the places which attract most of the students, right? It's not to drag them forcefully, it is only to make them get interested so that they themselves would come to us, right? So that's the intention.
All right, thank you, Prof. All right, I want to invite is Colin to give a vote of.
Okay, we're at the final place in our program, the vote of thanks. We have a lot to be thankful for. The Jamaica Drum for Peace actually is giving a bursary to the philosophy students, and we'll ask our head of department, Dr. Wilson White, to accept this bursary from Jamaica Drum for Peace. Thank you all for being here, for joining us today to celebrate UNESCO World Philosophy. Question of nature, human responsibility, and the environment. I'm sure we've all been intellectually stimulated by the discussions, and we need to thank all the people who made it possible for this event. And I'll start by thanking our event chair, Dr. Karen Carpenter, our head of department, Dr. Vivek Milson-White, our dean of the faculty, Professor Sylvia Cohenberg, and Secretary General, Mr. Everton Hannam from Jamaica for UNESCO, and also Paula Isturiz Cavero, the UNESCO Office for the Caribbean. We want to thank Dr. Doreen Brady-West from the Ethics Committee of Jamaica, and the Honorable Olivia Grain, her representative. We want to thank Kudos I for entertaining us, as well as Jim, who did the drumming. He served a double title. We want to thank our esteemed panelists, Dr. Rotimi Omasulu, Mr. Shim, Dr. Nicole Plomo, Mr. Omar Oliphant. Thank you all for engaging us in such thought-provoking discussions. We also did so much hard work to ensure that we had our office staff, Ms. Ava Mundell, Mrs. Mundi White, Donit Solomon, Tika Shimiu, and Ms. Dunstan Staple. We want to thank also the members of the philosophy section, Dr. Lawrence Bamikole, Professor Baladana Pati, Mr. Zeni, and Janice Smith, Mr. Mohan Singh. And thanks to our streaming team and everyone of you who are here. Thank you so much, and see you next year for another celebration of World Philosophy Day. Thank you. Lastly, we have refreshments in room 03. Join us. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.